Welcome to day 3, marathon 3 completed of the 7 in 7 challenge. My name is Phil Daly. I'm the head of medium PR at Leeds Rhinos. Delighted to be joined on today's call with Ian Gardner and Jen Dodd from the MND Association. We've got Danny Horn from Silson, who's a big supporter of the MND Association. And we've got Stephen Naylor, who's from the Nick Smith Foundation. We'll find out some more about that later on, a cause that is very close to Kev's heart and in association with MND. And of course, we're delighted to be joined by Rob Burrow from home and his dad Jeff's with him today. And we're delighted to see you both there.
Obviously, it's great to see you, Stephen. I know we've been in regular contact, haven't we, via text, and we've had a few phone calls, especially over the last 11 months. But in particular, when I was in the academy and I was coming through, there was a guy I played with who was an incredible talent from Siddle. A guy called Nick Smith, and Stephen can probably tell you the story a lot better than I can, but Stephen got diagnosed with MND and sadly passed away not long afterwards. But I just think the legacy he has left, what he did, especially at Siddle, is incredible. But he left a mark on every one of that academy team that I played in, and he didn't go on and sign pro at the Rhinos. He could have done. He was good enough. He was a top player, but he was a brilliant lad and all. And I think that's what you find about rugby lads. There's not many bad ones. They're all pretty genuine and good and care for each other. And Nick certainly was one of those. And he's got a lovely family. And Stephen, you can probably tell the rest if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks, Kev. It was September 2017 when MND sort of crashed into our lives, and like other people have said, we knew the initials, knew the acronym, didn't really know much about the disease or what it was. But then Nick, who'd been not feeling great, couldn't lift as much as he used to in the gym, but didn't think anything of it. Sort of had gone to the doctors a few times, and then on that Saturday afternoon in 2017, he got the diagnosis that he had MND. And, it's a shattering diagnosis. It's a horrific moment. I'm married to Nick's sister, Helen. And you can imagine for his sister, for his mum, for his wife, Rachel, for all of the family, it's just one of those moments that you'll never forget. And Nick deteriorated quite rapidly. It's one of those diseases where you don't quite know sort of how it's going to progress. Nick's progressed rapidly, and it was just 101 days later, so almost exactly 3 years ago, that Nick died. And 2 young children, Georgia, who was 2 at the time, Hayden 5, and it's just one of those moments where you can't comprehend sort of what's happening. It makes no sense. You're angry, you're in grief. And it's just one of those horrific moments, and a horrific period as well. Even though it was short, 101 days, Nick really, struggled, and everyone around him struggled as well to know how to deal with it. And it's the cruelest of diseases. And the fact that, we can now do something to try and help, hopefully collectively, really keeps us going. And that's why we sort of decided to set up the charity, the Nick Smith Foundation, just within a few months after Nick died, because myself and Rachel, Nick's wife, were just determined that he would have a sort of lasting legacy. And, as Kev has said, as everyone said, the rugby league family is an incredible family. And all of Nick's teammates from the 400 odd games he started at Siddle have been there for us every step of the way. And we wanted to both raise funds to support the efforts of research into MND. We wanted to help children who'd been bereaved at a young age, because obviously when you're 5 and 2, how do you explain to them sort of what's happened and what's going to happen to them? And it's one of those cruel twists of fate that my wife Helen and Nick, they lost their dads at exactly the same age when he was 38. So they obviously had experience of losing a parent at a young age as well. So we wanted to try and help them, and we've done things to do that. I'm proud to say some of them working with the MND Association on lots of exciting projects, but including something called treasure and memory boxes, where memories can be captured and stored for the future. And that's something we're really proud of. But the other element we've tried to promote is rugby league itself, because Nick was passionate about rugby league, as Rob is, as Kev is. And, it was so much a part of his life that we wanted to somehow, ensure that young people have the opportunity to take it up, and then the opportunity to keep playing that sport, whether at an amateur level, whether for fun, whether hopefully and professionally in the future. And so we've done things to try and support that as well. So all three strands, which we hope Nick would be incredibly proud that we've taken up in his name, and hopefully have made a real difference.
And you mentioned there, presumably a great inspiration for you and great encouragement to carry on doing it is to create that legacy, to try and fund that research and help make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future. Yeah,
absolutely. And the generosity of everybody, as we've been seeing this week, is just incredible. In our first year, we sort of you have no clue when you set up a charity how much you're going to raise. But in the first year, we managed to raise enough to donate £50,000 to the MND Centre in Sheffield, Citran, who are doing amazing research work. And that money has gone directly to be invested in a piece of machinery that's allowing them to do more research, more testing, hopefully to develop treatments, and one day sort of mean that we can wipe out this disease. And I think it's been really important that we've tried to connect people with where their money is going as well. So things like that, things like the sort of memory boxes, are things which people have that tangible link between the money they're giving in Nick's name and sort of the legacy that he's able to leave.
And from what Kev said there, Nick obviously was a great guy to know. Tell us a bit about Nick himself and your time with him.
Yeah, so I mean, I've known Nick for a long time because I met Helen, his sister, my wife now, when we were both 11. So obviously Nick was quite a formidable bloke to have as a potential brother-in-law and then brother-in-law. He was one of the fittest guys I knew, sort of, who was this sort of legend on the rugby pitch. He wasn't someone you ever wanted to cross or upset his sister. And obviously, given the sort of situation they faced of losing their dad, Nick was such a pivotal role in the family. At our wedding, he gave Helen away. Him and Helen and his mum Viv are an incredibly tight-knit trio, and sort of having to go through all of that was just horrendous. But as you know, he was at Siddle for so long, sort of, from being at the Rhinos Academy back in '98. He was at Siddle then, Siddle as a youngster, still at Siddle up until the point he was sort of diagnosed. And it becomes so much a part of your life. And sort of all of the guys there have been so supportive and, want to ensure that, Nick's legacy goes on as well. And I think it really shows the sort of the camaraderie, the family, the nature of this sport. Sort of it, we're seeing that so much this week as well.
And the Siddle club, mentioned a fantastic club, still producing top quality players. Tom Holroyd, who's in the Rhinos first at the moment. There's a lot in the academy as well. So it's great to see that they're so heavily involved in cherishing Nick's legacy.
Yeah, and one of the things, Siddle's got such a great pedigree of developing these players. And one of the things we've done every year since we started the charity is hold something we call the Smudger under sevens, Nick known as Smudger at Siddle, of course. And that's where we try and get under 7 clubs from across Yorkshire together for a day to give them a chance of playing against each other, learning tips, tricks. And obviously we weren't able to do that in person this year, but we gathered together lots of stars of the sport, including Kev, to sort of talk about their tips and tricks that they wanted to pass on. And it's been great to be able to do that. It's sort of, you get hundreds of young players together. They love the opportunity of playing against all these other teams, and it's just a brilliant sort of, looking back and seeing that tournament going on the fields up at Siddle is just sort of a brilliant thing. You sort of think, Nick would be looking at that and think, wow, it's amazing that that's happening sort of in my name.
Fantastic, and I'm sure you'll join all. Looking forward to 2021 when we can get kids back out on fields and playing sport and enjoying themselves again.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of lots of, it's still sort of having one of the new pitches installed as well as part of the World Cup legacy. So, great things happening up there, and sort of, with the likes of, Tom Holroyd and sort of Morgan Smithies and everything, doing so well in the game at the moment. It's lots of exciting times to come at the club there.
Fantastic, Steve. It's great to hear about the Nick Smith Foundation.